Foxy Wizkid here with part 2 of the video review that I did on the iBuyPower Gaming RDY system. Now in part 1 we reviewed all the components. In part 2 now we're going to be overclocking this beautiful system with the Intel Core i7-9700K processor. Now 8 cores, 8 thread. We're going to cool that down with the RGB liquid cooling system that it came with. Thanks to the memory, we're going to be able to get some tweaking out of that, and as well as the GPU, especially because we want those extra frames per second. So we're looking forward to that. So overall, the system itself, if you're interested in looking at all the components, I'll add the link so you can watch part 1. And really, the motherboard itself, it really does make a difference to have a great motherboard that supports proper overclocking. But remember, it's up to you to overclock. You don't want to do something wrong and void your warranty, so keep that in mind, okay? When you do things, be warned. Here, I'm going to be doing some stability tests back and forth until I get things right without going crazy. We don't want to, burn the system down to the ground. We want things to run smooth and quiet and as cool as possible. So, that's one thing that you have to keep in mind when you overclock. Don't overdo it. Small increments. I've made overclocking videos before on how to, and the technique is carried on generation after generation. No matter what version of an Intel Core CPU you use, the technique is still the same regardless. So first things first, when you go to overclock, make sure you have adequate cooling. Second is make sure that you go into the BIOS, and in this case, the UEFI click BIOS that I have here, I set the CPU ratio to 50, and I also turned on the Explore mode, the Overclock Explore mode, to Expert. That releases some more options for me to go in, such as setting up fixed mode, enabling the XMP profile, setting up voltages, of course, and disabling things like the Intel C state. So you can pause the screen here at any time to see exactly what I did. The voltages of the CPU, I set that to 1.37 volts, and you can see also that the RAM voltage has been set up to 1.35. So now in the system in Windows 10, I've got Prime 95 here running things at full load, looking for stability, making sure temperatures are not crazy. 83 degrees Celsius, very respectable, well below the limits, which is around 90 degrees Celsius. You don't want to really go over 90. And right now I'm around 70, 75, so that's pretty good. This timings of the memory have been tweaked to CL16 from CL19, which was what the box out of the box it came with. And I'm very happy so far with these results because 5 gigahertz locked in, all 8 cores, 8 threads is pretty darn good. I mean, there's a lot of CPUs out there that are 8 cores, 16 threads, or even higher than that. And this one here isn't really stressing itself out. Now when it comes to the GPU, we're definitely increasing the default clock, memory, and the boost, and you can see the settings that I achieved there. How? Through this tool. The MSI Afterburner tool allows you to basically unlock and slide over to an appropriate amount, small increments, after you've increased the core voltage, the power limit, temperature limit, all to full. Then I've managed to tweak slowly and ran some stability tests, of course, to make sure that it doesn't crash. Now 3D Mark gave me a score here for time spy of 9397. That's the result on the left, and on the right is my default clock speed benchmark. So you can see there the gains that I got in frames per second and so forth. In AIDA64, the CPU copy and the latency for the memory both were increased, so that was great to see that the tweaking of the memory definitely had a difference there, and that's great to see that we're seeing different types of increases of performance, but not enough to overpass the 8-core 16-thread Ryzen 7 1800X, but pretty darn close. But what I did find in a substantial increase here was the OpenGL frames per second. I actually got about 40 to 45 frames per second more on the rendering there, so the GPU overclock really helped. Now here are some CPU Z results. Very interesting. This Intel Core i9-9900K did less than this processor on the single core single thread result. So that was quite impressive that I beat that. On the Strange Brigade, the game here, running it on Ultra with the Vulkan API, which is like the OpenGL API, you can see that I got 116 frames per second, which is actually 10 frames per second more than when running it at the default clock speeds of the GPU. So definitely increasing the GPU speed helped in Cinebench and the rendering, and here in games as well you will see a substantial increase. Now of course that doesn't come with a little bit of give and take, more wattage usage compared to the defaults. Temperatures for the CPU were a little bit higher, but not necessarily for the GPU. The GPU held itself very nicely. If you're interested in purchasing a system like this, or this one specifically, I'll add the link below so you can look around, play around with the different system builds that iBuyPower has to offer. Take a look at it. I'd like to thank them for providing it. Comment below. Let me know what you think about this overclock. And again, thank you for watching.